The business owners generally think that their employees are the problem, but if you have problem employees, that means you're the problem. You're only going to attract to people that are as good as you. So if you are at level C, you're going to get C-level employees. If you get to level B, you get B-levels employees, and if you get to A, you get A-level employees. So how do I, as the owner, develop my talent and my skills and my intellectual ability and my game? How do I get my game to A game? Because then I get A players, and game knows game.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. On today's podcast, we have Warren, special guest. He is a pretty fantastic coach. Warren, thank you for making the time. Where you're calling from today?
Sugarland, Texas, where everything's sweeter.
Wow, I want to visit it now.
Can't beat that, right?
You can't beat that. That's a golden answer right there. I was reading through your background and saw you've led large sales and marketing organizations across multiple states before moving into coaching. What originally pushed you towards helping business owners directly?
And it's been really fun. It's one of those things where, you see people that are business owners, and I would sometimes use that in quotes because they do technically own a business, but a lot of these folks are stalled and they can't go to their kids' soccer games, and they're stalled on how much profit they're making. And it causes, financial angst and divorce and all this nasty stuff. And it's totally an avoidable thing. And so what I like about one of the reasons I chose Action Coach is because the mission statement is world abundance through business re-education. So the idea that, hey, if we get businesses to grow, these businesses invest in their communities and charities, and they employ people, and that's how you can really affect change. So that's one of the things that I'm really passionate about.
Amazing. Thank you. You worked in both media and business growth environments. What lessons from those earlier leadership roles still shape how you coach today?
There's about 1,000. So let me pick a couple. I think the first thing I would go with is I learned early on, so I'm just a really talent-focused person. And I'd rather have one good person than 3 marginal people because they're easier to manage, they get more done, and it's just a win-win-win. So I think first, the value of talent and of intentionally recruiting talent and being on the eye for talent all the time, even if you don't need somebody in your organization right then, to actually just keep your eyes open. I always think about it for American college football coach, half your job is recruiting and then half your job is coaching the coaches and running plays and everything. But you're just always recruiting.
Okay. For people who are just meeting you, how do you describe what you actually do as a business coach?
I have a little tag when I go meet people, and it says, I make you money, because it gets people's attention. People are like, oh, how do you make me money? Well, okay, now we can really get into it. But I really tend to ask a lot of questions. If I had to describe what we do, we help business owners scale and grow. And there's really 3 big challenges. It's people, it's sales, all things sales, and then it's the business owner being a time constraint chokehold on the business. So it's time management and delegation. So it says people, profit, and priorities if you want to go the 3 Ps.
That's a golden answer. Sugar answer.
Yeah.
What kinds of companies are usually the best fit for your coaching work?
Great question. I wish I probably should have a better answer for this. I have a wide variety of businesses from every kind of everything from a general contractor to irrigation to all things in the home, painters, etc. And then I also have things like a CPA firm. I have a veterinary clinic. I've got a been there, dump that franchise. I've got a tech company. So I've got all over the place. It's really funny how businesses really, it ends up, back to those 3 things. And if we can figure out which one of those things, in fact, is the most important of a priority to kind of solve for the business, to get them to get first money. If we can make them a bunch more money and way more than pay for our fees, then we can work on the longer term stuff. That was a good non-answer, huh?
It's a diplomatic answer. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So it's seriously though, I don't know. A lot of coaches or whatever, a lot of businesses niche down, and I should probably do that. And, I get business owners that ask me all the time. They're like, oh, well, have you worked with XYZ before? I'm like, no, but let me just take a stab at what are the things that you're challenged with right now. And it always comes down to those 3 things.
That's a pretty fantastic framework. Let's just put it that way. Very streamlined.
Thank you.
At what stage does a business owner usually realize they need a coach like you?
Yeah, I think what I would say to that is, what got you to $1 million isn't going to get you to 10 million. What got you to 10 million isn't going to get you 100 million, right? You think about building out an organization, and this is fun. We did this as an exercise, and the listeners can do this if they would like. It's a fun exercise. Like if you put in your favorite, AI, if you say, if that's chat or whatever, if you say, hey, look, I want to build this into $100 million business in the next 5 years. What would I need to do? It'll spit out some structures and do all the things, right? And give you some sort of framework. And that's interesting. And most people are like, well, I can't build it into 100 million in 5 years, nor do I want to. Nor do I want to do that with my coaching business, frankly. I mean, 100 million would be nice, right? But it sounds like a lot of work. So but when you think about building a business that way, you're going to think about, it's going to come back to the people, right? Get the right people in the right leadership roles. And then I've got to make sure I have the right systems and processes in place so that they can implement what they need to do. And then I'm going to coach the coaches versus if you're trying to build a business to $1 million, you're like, well, eventually I can maybe hire somebody. I want to grow sales first. I got to have a marketing machine of some sort. So it's like you're thinking about it completely different. And so I guess, thinking about when does a business owner do it? It's like when they're like, oh crap, my profit has plateaued. Maybe my sales have even gone up, but my profit's plateaued. What the heck is going on? Or I just can't find good people, and I'm stuck here. They get stuck,
Okay. You led major sales and media organizations before. What did corporates scale leadership teach you that smaller business owners often miss?
Oh, there's so many things. So first of all, I mean, thank God I'm not in corporate anymore. That's just kind of gross. So, but I did learn a lot and they paid me to learn, which is really cool. Okay. So let's think about this. So things like we would pre-plan and we wouldn't have cash flow forecasts. I want business owners to have a cash flow forecast. Well, to have a cash flow forecast, you got to have a revenue forecast and you got to have an expense forecast. If you have those things, then you can know, and you kind of know when the money's coming in. You can know, first of all, if you're going to run out of money, because it invariably happens with businesses that are scaling, especially if they have products that they're buying, because you buy or build a product, you deliver it to the customer, and there might be a payment cycle of 60 to 90 days. But by the time the customer pays you for that product, you built it 60 days ago. Now you're carrying this burden of the cost of the product around for 120 days, 150 days. And if you don't think about that and forecast that, there's going to come a point when you're going to have orders and you're going to have business, but you're going to run out of cash. So I think that's the first thing. So the discipline of forecasting sales and forecasting financials is an absolute thing you got to think about when you're building a business. And there's tons of other ones. That's one of probably the most powerful one that I go to. It's like, we got to have our kind of financial ducks in a row. And most people don't. They're like, oh yeah, I look in my business account and I got money in there, so I must be doing well. No, that's not how it works. That's checkbook. That's called a checkbook.
What do owners often assume they need help with versus what the real problem turns out to be?
Well, business owners generally think that their employees are the problem. But if you have problem employees, that means you're the problem. So that's kind of hard to hear sometimes. But then,
The problem exists between the keyboard and the chair, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really funny. That is, you're only going to attract to people that are as good as you. So if you are at level C, you're going to get C-level employees. If you get to level B, you get B-levels employees. And if you get to A, you get A-level employees. So how do I, as the owner, develop my talent and my skills and my intellectual ability and my game? How do I get my game to A game? Because then I get A players. And game knows game. Agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Let's just switch gears here a little bit. What major shifts are you seeing right now in the business coaching and advisory space?
Yeah, it's funny. I'll share a little story. So I had this guy, and he's had 15 auto repair shops in the Midwest, and we're talking about these things, and he's asking me these questions and about a particular strategy. So I tell him, I'm thoughtful about it and tell him what I think, and I think this is where we need to go, et cetera. What do you think? And he's like, well, this is what I put in chat, and here's what it came out with. It's like, okay, some of this is pretty good, and a portion of it's crap. And you're going to trust chat before you're going to trust a person that's got expertise in the space. I mean, that's your call. But I think AI is a tool, is a really great tool, and it can be really dangerous if you just believe everything it says. So that would be the first, I think, change. Now that said, as we use this tool to accelerate our growth and knowledge and our business and strategy, and using it as a tool with some great advisees, no, advisors, that was right, then you're going to be in great shape. So that's kind of the double-edged side of AI.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Yes, 100%, right? Like, I don't know if I was talking to you or somebody else. We're talking about how proliferation of AI has caused more garbage to be on the internet, and then the AI consumes the garbage, and now you got, AI has actually gone downhill in some cases. Was that you? I think that was you, right, Art? We were talking about this?
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting space, right?
It sure is. And it's changing increasingly rapidly, if I can put it that way,
Yes.
because whatever was released 3 months ago is already outdated. It's,
Mhm. I was talking to one of my clients, and she's got an idea, and I think it's a pretty good idea, and it's in her space. So she's got a home care, where they help people and the seniors, and they need whatever they need, bathing, meal prep, that kind of stuff. And so anyway, she's got this idea, and I'm like, I think you could actually develop this, maybe even yourself. You could even develop an app, or you could try it with AI, spend an hour on it, and then I'll introduce you to some folks that could definitely develop it for you. And you're not going to get poor on the deal. It's not going to be like, I mean, a year ago or 2 years ago, that might've been a $10,000 investment. That might be $1,000 investment now to get the same or better product. Would you agree with that?
absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of the fun thing. I think there's more and more opportunities like that. So if you have this idea, you can test it in a very low cost threshold basis, versus before it's like, oh man, am I going to throw $10,000 at this? Cause that's still $10,000. Do I feel that strongly about it, et cetera, et cetera,
Well, the way you look at it, if this $10,000 is going to make you 100,000 that year, you only pay 10% for it. If it's going to make you 1 million, then it's a bargain.
Yes. And the thing is, if you can iterate the product quickly now because of AI, much more quicker, and develop it, is you can sort of follow the real demand. Because I'm invariably, like, when I interview people that are building apps or whatever ideas, the idea they end up with and the is not the idea they started with.
Yep. Yep. I'm trying to think of like the companies which are pretty big and established nowadays, like Siemens, for example. I think they were making some kind of pots or something. They were not making electronics. So,
Isn't that awesome?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even back in the day, like things like the Post-it note,
Yep.
these people weren't interested. Well, that was a great story of an idea that was just somebody was like, oh, this could be a really cool thing. And now it's, I don't know how many freaking Post-it notes they sold, but look, I got a stack here, and they cost a lot of money, by the way. They're not cheap, the Post-it notes nowadays. So, there's that.
Let's see here. How much of your work now is about fixing sales performance versus fixing leadership, accountability, and systems?
Yeah, I'd say at least half of it is sales. And I mean, I've grown up and I've run large sales teams for so long, so it's a little bit second nature for me. But sales, and it's not just sales, it's unique. What is your unique value proposition? I've run organizations all over the country, and we were like, we're going to do a streaming campaign or commercial, television campaign for a company. And you walk into their business and you say, hey, look, hey, tell me why, if we're going to do a 30-second commercial, what would I say in it? What makes you different from your competitors? Well, been in business 30 years. We got really nice people, and we got a great product mix. I'm like, yeah, congratulations. That's the same thing everybody else says. Tell me what really makes you different. So thinking about that unique value proposition first, that will help increase your closing rate and your kind of attention rate, right? So figuring out and getting really crisp on that, and then figuring out what's our model of follow-up? How are we following up? Are we asking, if we're in the home and we do an estimate for painting, do we book another appointment? Do we ask them if they've gotten other estimates? Do we ask them if they, in fact, would like us to look at those estimates because it's complicated? All these things seem easy, but a car is a car, but they vary quite a bit from a Ferrari to a Chevy, right? And it's the same even with paint, and who's putting the paint on, and are they putting on a primer coat, and are they preparing the surfaces properly? So there's a lot of moving parts. So just that kind of that follow-up mechanism and scripting mechanism for when you approach a customer, and then thinking about that, do the salespeople understand that scripting? Do they use the scripting, or do they just kind of wing it? Because if you can increase that closing rate even more, then your bang for your buck for whatever advertising you're doing goes way up.
What do you think most business owners still misunderstand about sustainable growth?
What do they miss on sustainable growth? Is that what you said? Sorry, I
Yep.
want to make sure. Okay. I think I would go back to the thing of the owner being the time constraint or the decision-making constraint. So if you've got a large firm of 30 people and you've got 2 or 3 partners, let's call it attorneys. Okay, you got this attorney practice, and the 3 partners have to make the decisions, and they have to make more decisions than are at that level. So they're not only just making partner decisions, they're making manager decisions and employee decisions. You've just choked the organization because the partners can't do partner work and they can't make partner decisions. And then not only that, you're also not developing your managers to be able to think on their own and problem solve. And frankly, the managers might come up with a better idea and a better decision than the partner would anyway, because they're closer to it. And in fact, the employees should be able to make decisions to a certain level as well, because the employee is closer to the problem than the manager is, and way closer than the partner is. So that would be the number one. It's like, you got to get out of the way and let people do their jobs, hold them accountable, trust but verify. And then after that, you can get back to the important work of planning and figuring out where the organization is going to go and driving culture, et cetera.
That's an excellent answer.
Thank you. Am I doing well so far? Great.
Fantastic. 10 out of 10. Are owners becoming more open to automation, like AI, systemization, or is there still resistance?
I would ask that question to you. I'll tell you what I think. I think, heck yeah, they're becoming more and more open, and it's more a matter of how they're still, I think, unclear. And I think for you and your space, there's opportunity, because there's still the how, and they say, I want to do AI, and then they want to do 1,000 things. Like, dude, how about we just try to do one thing, right? Do you agree with that?
There was a study that the big organizations were deploying like very complex AI solutions, and 90% was the average failure rate. Like 90% of the big complex solutions failed because they tried to do 1,000 things at the same time. On the flip side, close to 80% of all the smaller solutions, for example, implementation of chatbots or personalization or uh, voice call agents or some kind of automation with LinkedIn or marketing, they will succeed. You gotta understand how much you can actually bite off so you can chew it, right?
Yes, it's funny you say that, because even back in the day in corporate, before we had AI, we'd like, we're gonna, instead of maybe potentially, like, let's say you buy an off the shelf solution for a CRM. Okay, we're gonna buy this off the shelf, but we want to customize it. And then they tack on about 25 things on this, hang in the 25 things on this, program. It slows it down. You don't use half the stuff anyway. Development and implementation doubles or triples in time length, and you just end up with a POS. And I'm not talking point of sale, piece of something. Just to be clear. Oh,
Like this, it is like this sign on a teacher. Now, don't feed the pigeons, otherwise they will SOU, right? Or SOY. So,
SOU is right.
POS system.
So I think about that, and with AI, so I'm like, my counsel to people is just try something small. And then, of course, then I know you would agree with this, Art. The other thing is, man, you better have good stuff on the front end, data. Like we talked about the front end, garbage in, garbage out. Like, you better have your stuff together first in your systems and processes and data, so that when you actually, implement this sucker, you got something.
And you better make sure it works right.
Yes.
It's not only just implementing it, you got to come back and you got to tweak it, troubleshoot if something breaks. There's a lot that comes into it. It's not just like, set it up and forget it. A
Yes.
little more complex than that.
100%. But I encourage people, I think they gotta get familiar with what you can do and how you can prompt this tool and use this tool to turn into something that can save your business time, make you more efficient, et cetera.
Exactly. When a business owner first comes to you, what's usually working well already?
Well, I would say one of the good things is to be in business, you have to be fairly positive and have some sort of positive mindset and optimism. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. And so most of these folks, when we talk, have that going for them. The other thing is, if they come to me, they've already figured out they don't know all the answers, which I don't know all the answers either, but they're open to actually saying, okay, maybe somebody else can help me. Maybe coaching isn't just for athletes. It works in every other example as well. And if they are a high potential business owner, just having somebody with some outside perspective to kind of analyze what they're doing, analyze what's going on in the business, is absolutely going to add value. So then it's just they've come to that realization. Now we're just talking about what do you want to do first?
Now, on the flip side, what's usually breaking down behind the scenes?
Well, I would go with it's almost always a people thing. And one of the things that I really like to do is I want to make sure that their group of folks that they have working for them, that we're maximizing the leverage out of the people that are working for them. Because oftentimes they haven't communicated their expectations clearly to the employees, the team. They haven't showed them what success looks like. Like what is really great? If you hit these goals or these numbers, this would be really good, or achieve these things, that would be really good. And if you haven't told them, where's the end zone, where's out of bounds, you don't have a scoreboard, how do they know how to succeed? So when we work on that and we get clear communication in place for the organization, things run better. I know it sounds so simple, right? It shouldn't be complicated, but where communication is hard. Like when we all have, and we always do disc profiles. Are you familiar with DISC? Yeah. Okay. So, we run these communication profiles on folks so we can actually tell, where are we really strong communicating? Where do we need help? How do we think about decisions? And then how do we get the most out of our employees based on what we know about them? And then we just talk about that. And just having an awareness of that can really create a lot more momentum in the organization.
Okay. How often do you find that the owner is the bottleneck without realizing it?
Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, I mentioned it earlier. I think that is really, it happens a lot because you would think that what you were doing that led you to success would lead you to more success. But every sort of activity that you do has to become higher level as the organization grows. And then the other thing, I think that the owners, so that's the decision-making bottleneck we talked about. There's a time bottleneck that can happen. And then, so that turns into really a delegation, a focus on delegation. And then, ultimately what happens a lot is the owner will say, well, I can't trust that person. I don't trust him to make that level of decision. Well, okay, then we either haven't given him a chance to make that level of decision, we haven't given him information on how to make that decision or what we're looking for, or we got the wrong person. And if we got the wrong person, we got to move them out anyway. So then let's get on with it.
Let's get on with it. I love this approach.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard, they're like, "Well, but they're such a nice person." I'm like, yeah, and we're gonna find a really great place for them where they're gonna be happier and more fulfilled because they're actually gonna be living up to their potential instead of trying to do something they're not good at.
That's a golden concept, to be honest.
No, thank you. Thank you. But it makes sense,
There's only
right?
so there's only so much you can beat your head against the wall, before
Yeah.
nothing is happening.
You can't teach a pig how to sing. They just oink at you. They don't know how
Another
to
golden
sing.
expression. I love it. I mean, you probably can. It's just gonna be, not for everybody.
Exactly.
What patterns do you see in companies that hit the revenue ceiling and can't seem to break through?
Well, it's gotta be okay, so revenue ceiling, thinking specifically about revenue ceiling. Yeah, I think where I go when they're kind of plateaued on revenue, a lot of times one of the levers you can pull is, well, first of all, pricing. A lot of times these folks, the owner is the last one, they're the most afraid to raise price because they're afraid they're gonna lose business. But the fact of the matter is, if you raise the prices by 10%, you can lose 10% of the business and still make the same amount of money, right? And it's actually mathematically, it's you can lose more than that, right? Because you're going up 10%, so it's more. But just on a simplistic form. And so we really look at pricing, and we usually find some money there, return on investment for them in the coaching. Their money they're investing with me. So we look at the pricing. We can optimize some pricing. And then we want to look at referral partners. Like, where are your best referral partners? Are we leveraging our relationships for referral partners? And that can be, so that's anybody that's sort of going after the same customer that you're going after. How do we use those relationships? So like you and I, we are probably both going after business owners as our customers. How can we leverage each other and be intentional about outreach and referring each other so that we can both grow our own businesses? And, you find a client. I was just in a room full with 15 businesses, and we were talking about two things. Number one, virtual assistants of some sort, and then AI. So if there was a virtual assistant person I knew, which I do, that's a golden opportunity to say, hey, I know Joe Schmo and you could use them. And I trust them because, if you're going to try to do this, you want to make sure you make the right choice with your virtual assistant. So that'd be a great example. And then if I think I know a guy that does a little bit of AI, meaning art, then I could go ahead and introduce them to you for that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good concept. Similar to, also what I'm looking for, mutually beneficial business
Yes.
model, pretty much.
Yeah. 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 We got to create win-wins, right? And
Exactly.
if we, as we build out our networks, we can create win-wins. It's a beautiful thing. And it's the same with, I'm using B2B in this example, but it can be the same like my veterinary clinic. Okay, well, have we talked to all the groomers around the area? Where do they refer their customers to? Because they get asked, and or whatever. Pick any industry you want. Like I built a networking group for I have so many trades types customers that have access to the home. Like, well, if you have access to the home, while you're in the home, if you see something that needs work done, you could say, hey, I know a good electrician or a good plumber or a good irrigation guy or a good painter or whatever, AV guy. Like you could do that while you're in the home. And because you've gained credibility there, it's a golden opportunity to be able to introduce them. And that turns into win-win-win.
They literally got the foot in the door.
Well played, my friend.
What are the most common sales bottlenecks you encounter?
Sales bottlenecks. Well, if you have salespeople, that's a bottleneck. I'm just kidding. Bad salespeople, it's a bottleneck.
Well, maybe you have a point there.
No, the right salespeople are key. And then, having the right accountability mechanisms. I go to with salespeople, I go to look, what are the key performance activities we need to do to get to the sales? Because if you're just measuring sales, that's a lagging indicator. We've got to be measuring activities that we know are going to lead to sales. And then if in fact the salesperson is doing those activities and they're not getting sales, well, then we know there's a problem with scripting or how they close or how they follow up or do they put on deodorant or whatever, right? Like, so we can figure those things out. And if they,
Points.
yeah, deodorant is good, right? So, like the natural smell is not always the best smell. But if we can figure those things out, then we can diagnose the problem because we see it's there. It's either that or in fact, the salesperson is not doing the activity they're talking about. So then you can diagnose that as well.
Let's see. Where do business owners lose the most time every week?
Oh, so this is great. So we have a thing. If you can picture it's called, it's called a time target. You can picture a target like you're playing darts or whatever, right? So on the outside of the target is not urgent and not important. So some people spend some time there, but you should really never spend time there. But people do, and it's comfortable
That's what you
because
delegate,
stuff you
right?
like, right?
That's what you delegate pretty much. Well,
Yes,
unless you like,
you should delegate all that crap. And then on the next one, going in more into the middle of the circle, towards the middle of the circle, you've got urgent but not important. People spend all that time there. So like, well, oh my gosh, I just got another email. I got to stop this podcast and answer these emails. I got 3 calls while I was on. Did I stop the podcast and take the phone calls? No. And one of them was a potential customer. So just know that you're that important. But it's like, oh my God, I've been fighting fires all day. Well, you're not a freaking fireman. So quit fighting fires. Put a slot, block your time so that if you have to do some of this stuff, you do it in a time block. But I would say that stuff should be delegated as well, right? Now we get closer to the center of the target, which is urgent and important. We want to spend a lot of time there. We're in the zone there, right? We got to do the urgent and important stuff. That's stuff that if we don't do this, 90 days, the company's going to look a lot different. So we take care of that. That's employee stuff, that's customer stuff, that's strategy, et cetera. Problem is most owners don't get to the center, the bullseye, which is not urgent, but important. So that's planning, that's strategy, that's thinking about where we want to be 5 years from now. That's calendaring these things out. And so they don't make it to that most important time. That's working on the business, right? That's the thing you got to block on your calendar every week, or you just don't do it. So that's what I would say. That's the number one time. If we can get them doing that work in the zone, we're going to have a much more productive, business owner.
then they'll be in a zone.
Yes, they're in the zone. Got to be in the zone.
Yeah. Let's see. What kind of reporting or visibility do owners usually lack when they come to you?
Did you say reporting?
Yeah, reporting or visibility.
That's a good question. Think financial first. And we talked a little bit already about, okay, do I have cash flow forecasting? Do I have sales forecasting? Do I have expense forecasting? When's the money coming in? When's it going to go out? So that's number one. Then if they go deeper, here's another great one. This drives me not crazy, a little crazy. People don't know. They don't know their cost per lead. And then some of them will say, well, yeah, I know, my cost per conversion. And I'm like, okay, are you getting that from your digital guy or lady? They're like, well, yeah, my cost per conversion is $48. I'm okay. So conversion is somebody that called or filled out a form. And they're like, what do you mean? Like, that's not a client conversion. That's a conversion into a lead. That could be a potential customer. What's your closing ratio on your leads? How many leads do you need to get a customer? Okay, I close 1 out of 3. Okay, do you? So first of all, let's make sure you do. Because then if we know that it's $50 per conversion or whatever, then your cost per customer or cost per lead, let's say cost per lead in this situation, cost per customer, I guess that would actually get us a customer because you close 1 out of 3. That would be $150, right? So then do we know the lifetime value of a customer? Because if we know that, and the lifetime value of a customer, like say for a vet clinic, let's say that's $7,000, okay? Because the dog lives 10 years and you spend whatever that is, $1,500 a year, okay? Well, so if I can acquire that customer or patient, because veterinary clinics are patients, if I can acquire that patient for $200, why would I not do that all day long, right? So then you start to think about that. And so knowing those numbers and that visibility gives you the ability to turn on or turn off different things. What's the most efficient method of advertising for me? What am I holding? Am I holding my digital marketing team accountable for this on a monthly basis? What do I really understand the reporting? Those are all great ways to like really kind of amp up volume on not only revenue, but profit.
And satisfaction from business overall.
Yes, 100%. And then you can go golfing on Friday afternoon.
Or swimming if you're into swimming, you know?
Yeah,
If I'll
and
be living
swimming.
next to the ocean, I'll be go free diving, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what it all comes down to. Like we got into these things, we got into these businesses like, oh, I'm going to have so much fun. I'm going to have time and freedom and do what I want. It's going to be great. And then they get bogged down in this thing, and it wasn't quite what they thought it was going to be. And now they're like, I just want to make payroll, and that doesn't work. I mean, we got to aim for the stars, hit the moon. If the goal is to make payroll, then hopefully you'll make payroll. That's the best you're ever going to do. So thinking about like, where do you really want this thing to do? Because this business is just a thing that's supposed to provide your lifestyle so that you can go spend time with your kids and go on vacation and do all the fun things you want to do, even swim if that's your thing. Like that, you should be able to do that, right?
Exactly. Hopefully no sharks around to minus the kids. All right. Looking ahead, where do you want your coaching practice to be in 6 to 12 months from now?
Well, I think I can double again this year. And then at that point, I will be in a really nice, sweet spot. So God willing, that happens. So that's probably, by the end of 6 months, it's March. So that gets us to the end of the year. So that's 9 months. So yeah, that's where I want it to be. And then at that point, I will either make customer acquisition more of less of a priority, let's say, or I will hire a coach, or I'll raise my prices.
And retire to Hawaii somewhere. That's the plan.
That's the plan.
Are there particular types of business owners or revenue stages you want to serve more deeply?
I tell you, I have a real passion around anybody that's going to sell their business in the next 5 years. If you're going to sell the business in the next 5 years and you haven't really stepped on the gas, thinking about amping this thing up profit, make sure you're reporting profit and not just paying your lawn guy to mow your house and take care of your shrubs and taking that as a cost out of the business. But then stepping on the gas for sales, growing the revenue stream, getting efficient with systems, making sure you have the right general manager in place. Like then we absolutely need to talk, because you spent your whole life investing in this business and building it and sacrificing time and being on call and doing all this stuff. We want to maximize the value you can get out of this business, which is basically, okay, how much profit am I reporting and is it going up? And then how easy is it for somebody to come in and buy and just run it without you as the owner being there? And if we can do those two things and we get that right, they're multipliers. Amp up the profit, amp up the, saleability of the company, and how clean is it? How turnkey is it to buy? You do those things together, the owner gets way more money. They have a bigger wealth event, and then, they can travel more, they can give the money to their kids, they can do whatever they want, but they got a lot more options.
I actually just had a podcast call with a couple of people one guy that helped to create and sell 500 franchises. He literally franchised anything and everything, which was incredible. Yeah. If you want, I'll get you the connection for that. Maybe you can, get some ideas or work together with that.
Sounds like an interesting guy to talk to.
Yeah. All right. You're also involved in podcast style business content. How does thought leaders fit into your long-term strategy?
Well, first of all, it's just great talking to people because I always learn something. And so that's really fun. I have used, and as you are trying to do and probably doing successfully as well, podcasts. It gives you content, it gives you an opportunity to meet people, build connections that can become relationships, that can become customers or referral partners or whatever that looks like. So I like it. And then I like having the content, and so I'm writing a book. It's called Trust Your Caddy. And I'll tell you about that in a second. But the point being, I have all the transcripts from the podcasts, and there's good nuggets of wisdom in there. I put them up into my writing tool I'm using, pick those out, put those in appropriate chapters of the book. And now I have content from experts in the field, which is really awesome too.
That would be pretty interesting if you could basically let AI crunch through all the podcasts, extract the most amazing nuggets, and then you repurpose that.
And you can do it right now.
Yep.
And it saves you so
That's
much
the part.
time because, and
Yeah.
it doesn't get it all right. So like I've had it, I was working on this weekend and it took quotes from me and attributed to the person that I was interviewing, which is weird because it's all in there. But you make some tweaks, you change that, and it's just very efficient. Like it's saved. I don't even know how many hours because it would to pour through all that and then figure out your chapters and okay, where does this fit and how does it fit? Let AI take a stab at it,
Hours,
right?
weeks. It will save
Yeah,
you not hours, but
probably
weeks.
weeks. Yes, that's probably honestly a better answer than hours. So I was really pumped. I'm like, okay, yes, because you kind of you hit periods like, oh crap, I want to get this done, and you're not moving on it. It's like, yes, now I'm moving again.
Are you using Claude for anything?
I'm
Claudebot?
not using Claude. I'm using I looked at Claude and Claude was pretty highly recommended for this, but there's one that's actually it's for writers.
Perplexity.
It's
Probably
called
Perplexity.
hold on. I shouldn't this is a oh, it's called Type.
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 Well,
Like
I guess that's your
typing?
type.
What's that?
I guess that's your type.
Right? Right. That's my type. So well played again. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'll look into Type, but I think you should definitely set up on Claudebot, and I can help you get on that because that's the latest rave nowadays.
Yeah. Everybody's talking about Claude. He's a popular guy.
If you had a magic wand, I could fix just one thing that consistently slows down the business you work with. What would that one thing be?
If I could if I could get more qualified leads and I could sift through them quicker to get to people that are actually potential clients, like I have a lot of leads to sift through. I don't, but I guess so. Getting enough qualified leads first, and then getting them to turn into clients, working them through our process. Because once they're clients, I don't really lose people very often, thankfully, because they're getting value. And
Yeah.
I'm just intent on making sure they get value, and thank God we've been able to do that for folks.
And how are you currently doing it? I mean, I'm assuming ads, LinkedIn, cold email, or some stuff like that.
I've tried most of the things, I think. I haven't actually tried ads really, but I'm doing podcast stuff. That's gotten me a few clients. I'm doing a lot of networking, which takes a lot of time. That's got me some
Yes.
clients. And now, thankfully, I'm getting a lot of not a lot. I'm getting client referrals, and those are the warmest leads you could ever get. And so I've gotten a few clients that way too. My CPA firm referred me to my veterinary clinic. And my veterinary clinic hasn't referred me to anybody yet, but I'm working on it.
That's amazing, actually. Going for any service and then turning it into a business lead. And that's amazing, actually.
Yeah, I've got a high-end AV guy team, and they turned me on to a guy that does high-end garage remodeling, like really nice stuff. And then he introduced me to a builder as well that could become a client. So that's like, one satisfied client can turn into 3 or to 5, and then you build a whole community, and then you all know each other and you refer each other. So it's a win-win-win-win. It was great chatting with you. I know you're doing great things in the world of AI and helping business owners grow and scale. And we definitely have that in common. And looking forward to our next chat. Enjoyed it.
Fantastic. Thank you. We'll chat soon.
All right.
All right, man. See you next week.
Be good. I'll see you soon. Thank
All
you.
right. No problem. Bye-bye.
Bye.